Hi everybody. I am going to discuss sequencer circuit. Subject is digital logic design. This is the unit 4. This is the unit 4. So in this video I am going to discuss what is sequencer circuit, what is combinator circuit, difference between sequencer circuit, combinator circuit, synchronous and asynchronous sequencer circuit, difference between synchronous and asynchronous sequence circuit, flip-flop and latches, difference between flip-flop and latches. First of all, this is the subject of digital logic design, CST, third semester, second year, third semester. So in this video, I am going to discuss the flip-flops. So first of all, what is sequential circuit? What is combinator circuit? Now, I am going to present. Oh, this is the combination circuit and sequential circuit. Combination circuit consists of input variables, logic gates, and output variable jet. So there is the input. Depending on the input, we will get the output. This is the diagram of combination circuit. এখানে আমরা কি পাই? যখনই আমরা কিছু ইনপুট দিই কম্বিনেশন সার্কিটে, সেই ইনপুটটা ক্যালকুলেটেড হয়ে আমরা আউটপুট পাই. So there is a delay between input and output. That delay is negligible and that delay is known as propagation delay. তো কিছুটা ডিলে হয়, সেই ডিলেটা হচ্ছে propagation delay. এরপর আমরা আসছি সিকোয়েন্সিয়াল সার্কিটে. Combinator circuit produce an output based on input variable only. Output based on input variable only. In sequential circuit, it produces output based on current input and previous input variable. This means sequential circuit include memory elements which are capable of storing binary information. That binary information defines the state of the sequential circuit at that time. A latch is capable of storing 1 bit of information. So this is the diagram of sequence circuit. It consists of combinator circuit and memory. It consists of combinator circuit and memory. এখানে আমরা দেখতে পাচ্ছি কিছু ইনপুট আমরা আউটপুট পাচ্ছি, আবার কিছু আউটপুট ব্যাক করে মেমোরিতে আসছে, সেটা সার্কিটে আবার অ্যাক্টিভেটেড হচ্ছে. তো এখানে একটা মেমোরি রিকোয়ারমেন্ট আছে, যেটা আমি কম্বিনেশন সার্কিটে আমরা দেখেছি. এখানে ডাইরেক্টলি ইনপুট এর উপর আউটপুট ডিপেন্ডেন্ট, নো মেমোরি ইজ দেয়ার. তো সিকোয়েন্স সার্কিট এখানে একটা মেমোরি লাগছে. Sequential means that things happens in a sequence. Sequence means that thing happens in a sequence, one after another. Sequential logic circuit, the actual clock signal determine when the things will happen next. Simple sequence circuit can be constructed with bistable circuit, that is flip-flop, latch, counter, registers, etc. Sequential logic circuit use flip-flop as a memory element in which the output is dependent on the input state. Unlike combinator circuit, that change state depending upon the actual signal being applied to their input at that time. Sequential logic circuit have some memory. This means it can store some memory. Sequential logic circuit is based on 3 states: present input, past input, or the past output. Sequential logic circuit actually 2-state device. It can store either 0 or 1, level 0, level 1. It is latch between 0 and 1. That's why it is known as bistable. আমরা কি পেলাম? কম্বিনেশন সার্কিটে আমরা দেখতে পাচ্ছি, কম্বিনেশন সার্কিটে আমরা যা ইনপুট দিচ্ছি তার উপর আউটপুট পাচ্ছি. এখানে কোনো মেমোরি এলিমেন্ট নেই. সিকোয়েন্সিয়াল সার্কিটে আমরা দেখলাম কি, সিকোয়েন্সিয়াল সার্কিটে আমরা দেখলাম কিছু ইনপুট আউটপুটে ফিরে যাচ্ছে, আবার কিছু আউটপুটে থেকে ব্যাক করে ইনপুট আসছে. তার মানে কি একটা মেমোরি রিকোয়ারমেন্ট ইজ देयर. সিকোয়েন্স মিন ইন এ সিকোয়েন্স অফ অর্ডার. সিকোয়েন্সিয়াল সার্কিট costly to design. It's based on it can store 1 or 0, so it is a bistable device. So this is the difference between sequential and combinator circuit. In combinator circuit, output depends only on the present value of the input. In sequence circuit, output depends on the present and previous states values of the input. In combinator circuit, this circuit will not have any memory as their output with the change of input variable. In sequence circuit, there is a memory, so that can change its output to the input. There are no feedback involved. It directly produces output. There is a signal feedback path between output to the back to inputs. Used in Boolean operations, used in memory devices, and it is combinator circuit is less costlier to design. Sequence circuit more complex to design. Combinator circuit is cheaper. Sequence circuit is costlier. Examples are full adder, half adder, multiplexer, demultiplexer, decoder, encoder, comparator, etc. In sequence circuit, examples are RAM, registers, counter, and other states returning machines. So these are the basic differences between sequential and conventional circuit. Now let us consider the board. Let us consider the board. তো আমরা কি জানলাম সিকোয়েন্সিয়াল এন্ড কম্বিনেশন সার্কিট সম্বন্ধে। আমরা সিকোয়েন্সিয়াল সার্কিট আর কম্বিনেশন সার্কিটের বেসিক আইডিয়াটা হচ্ছে সিকোয়েন্স মানে আমরা পেলাম ইনপুট আউটপুট পাচ্ছি, কিছু আউটপুট আমরা ব্যাক করে ইনপুট আসছে সিকোয়েন্সে ফিরে আসছে, দ্যাট ইজ এ মেমোরি। বাট কম্বিনেশন সার্কিটে আমরা দেখলাম যে ইনপুট পাচ্ছি আর আউটপুট ইনস্ট্যান্ট আমরা পাচ্ছি, যেমন আমরা ফুল হেডার বা হাফ হেডার যখন আমরা ইনপুট দিই আউটপুট পাচ্ছি। তো এই ডায়াগ্রামটা বেসিক কনসেপ্ট, এটা আমরা এখানে যে ইনপুট দিচ্ছি দেখতে পাচ্ছি there are some inputs and it produce outputs. তো এখানে আমরা এই বেসিক কনসেপ্ট গেট দিয়ে বানাচ্ছি কম্বিনেশন সার্কিটটা। তো ইনপুট আর আউটপুট, এখানে কোনো মেমোরি এলিমেন্ট আমরা নেই, there is no memory element to store output values. So it is simple to design. In sequential circuit there is inputs and it produce some outputs. Some output feedback to the input with the help of memory. So there is a memory requirement. So basic differences are output depends on input only. Their output depends on input as well as past output goes to the input. There are no feedback. Direct connection is there. There is a feedback. There is memory element in sequence circuit. In combination circuit there are no memory element. So it is easier to design. It is complex to design. And examples are like full header, half header, these are decoder, encoder, parity generator, checker. These are the example of combination circuit. And in case of sequential circuit, flip flop, registers, counter, memory. Definitely memory is an example of sequential circuit. So this is the basic concept of sequential and combination circuit. Now I am going to discuss different types of sequential circuit. There are two types of sequential circuit. One is synchronous, another is asynchronous. Let us consider the PDM. Now types of sequential circuit. There are two types of sequential circuit. One is asynchronous sequential circuit, another is synchronous sequential circuit. In case of asynchronous sequential circuit, all the output are not dependent on single clock pulse. সবকটা আউটপুট একটা ক্লক পালসের উপর ডিপেন্ডেন্ট নয়। In synchronous sequential circuit, all output are depends on single clock pulse. So this is the basic concept. Synchronous মানে হচ্ছে একসাথে, asynchronous mean হচ্ছে ডিলে হয়, একসাথে নয়, একটার পর একটা। asynchronous mean there is a gap. In asynchronous sequential circuit, if some or all the output of the sequential circuit do not change with respect to the active transition of the clock signal, then it is known as asynchronous. আমরা দেখতে পাচ্ছি লেখাটার মধ্যে যে আমরা সব আউটপুটকে একসাথে চেঞ্জ করতে পারছি না, আপনি এটা একসাথে হচ্ছে না, যেখানে আমরা অপারেট করব কিছু আউটপুট চেঞ্জেস হবে, কিছু আউটপুট চেঞ্জেস হবে না। This circuit change their state immediately when there is a change in input signal. The clock behavior, this is the concept of asynchronous sequential circuit. Input depends on output. All outputs are not changed by single clock pulse. They do not operate in the pulse mode. They have better performance but hard to design due to timing problems. Why I use the sequential circuit independent clocks when we require better external input handling. Drawbacks: it's more difficult to design, but though it has faster performance capabilities. Synchronous sequential circuit, all the output of the sequential circuit change with respect to the active transition of the clock signal. Then the sequential circuit is called synchronous. This means all the output of the synchronous sequential circuit change at the same time. All the output of the sequential circuit change at the same time. Therefore, the output of the sequential circuit are in synchronous with either only positive edge or negative edge. Synchronous clock circuit output depend on present and previous state of the clock pulse. So this is the diagram of sequential circuit. In this diagram, we can observe that all the output are activated by the single clock pulse. Clock signal, the state changes will occur across the storage element. যখন আমরা clock signal apply করি তখন all the output changes এসে যায়. These circuit are clock or pulse. ক্লকস হতে পারে বা পালস হতে পারে, সিঙ্ক্রোনাস সিকোয়েন্স সার্কিট that change their state. The pulse, they are called pulse sequential circuit, and change their state with the help of clock, and it is clock sequential circuit. This is the basic difference between sequential, synchronous sequential circuit and asynchronous. In synchronous circuit, memory elements are clocked flip-flops. Asynchronous, they are time delayed. In sequential circuit, the change in input signal can affect the memory elements upon the activation of the clock signal. In asynchronous circuit, change in input signal can affect memory element at any instant of time. The maximum operating speed of clock depends on the time delayed involved. Because of the time delayed involved. Because of absence of clock, asynchronous can operate faster than synchronous. There is no clock, so it is faster. It is easier to design, and it is more difficult to design. So this is the basic differences between sequential circuit and combination circuit. Now let us consider the board. These are the basic differences. এখানে আমরা পেয়েছি combination circuit and sequential circuit. Basically, combination circuit is a input and output dependent, but in case of sequential circuit, this is based on combination circuit. It is definitely based on combination circuit, but there are memory element. In case of sequential circuit, there are memory element. So these are the basic differences of sequential and combination circuit. Now, this synchronous. Sequential circuit are two types. Sequential circuit are two types. One is synchronous and another is asynchronous. In case of synchronous, all circuits are activated by single clock pulse. এখানে একটা সিঙ্গেল ক্লক দেওয়া হয়েছে, all circuits are activated at the same time. There is no delay. That's why synchronous. Clock pulse applied করবে, storage system আমরা activated হবে, সবকটা output clock pulse এর উপর dependent. Asynchronous, first clock pulse is applied to the first devices, first this is suppose counter or registers, then the output of the next is activated from the first devices. So there is a delay between one output to another output. Asynchronous means all output are not dependent on the same clock pulse. এখানে আমরা প্রথম ক্লক পালস অ্যাপ্লাই করছি, সেখান থেকে যে আউটপুটটা পাবো সে দ্বিতীয়টা অ্যাপ্লাই হবে, সে আবার তৃতীয়টা অ্যাপ্লাই করবে, এইভাবে কাজ হবে, তার মানে একটা ডিলে পাচ্ছি। Asynchronous sequential circuit. So this is the basic concept of sequential and asynchronous sequential circuit. Now I am going to discuss the next topics, that is latch and flip-flop. What is latch? What are the difference between latch and flip-flop? What is flip-flop? So this is the importance of the clock signal, and then I will discuss latch and flip-flops. Now this is the importance of the clock signal. Clock signal play a crucial role in sequential circuit. A clock is a signal. It is nothing but signal. It's oscillate between 0 and 1 repeatedly. A square wave with constant frequency, the most common form of clock signal. The clock signal has age. These are the instants at which clock changes, 0 to 1, 1 to 0. This is the clock signal. Let us consider the board. So this is the let us consider the board. So what is clock? So this is the consist of this clock is consist of 0 and 1. So this is one clock cycle. So this is 1, this is 0. Then this is another clock cycle. So this is another clock cycle. So this is the clock cycle 1, this is the clock cycle 2, this is the clock cycle 3, and so on. Clock is play vital role in case of flip-flop or registers and counter devices. There are many types of clock circuits are there. One is positive age trigger clock, and another is pulse clock. So let us consider the PDF. So this is the clock. So it oscillates between 0 and 1. Clock signal control output of the sequential circuit. That is determines when and how the memory element change their output. If the sequential circuit is not having any clock signal, the output will change randomly. So we cannot retain their state until the next input signal arrives. Clock input will retain its states until the next clock edges arrive. There are different types of triggering. These are the following possibilities of type triggering: level triggering and edge triggering. First of all, level triggering. There are two levels, high and low: positive level triggering and negative level triggering. If the sequence circuit operates in the clock signal when it is logic high, it is called positive level triggering, and it is highlighted in the figure. Let us consider the figure. This is the figure, and this is the positive edge triggering, and the above because it's based on high value. And this, if the sequence circuit is open in the with the clock signal when it is in logic low, this is negative edge triggering and negative level triggering. And this edge, there are edge triggering. There are two types of transition in occurring clock signal. That means clock signal transition either low logic low or logic high, or logic high to logic low. So these are the following two types of edge triggering. First of all, positive edge triggering, then negative edge triggering. If the sequential circuit is operated with the help of clock signal that is transition from logic low to logic high, that is positive. Low to high mean positive, upward toward upward, and when it moves to the high to low, it is downward, that is negative edge triggering. So there are positive edge triggering flip flop and negative edge triggering flip flop. Let us consider the board. So this is the clock. The clock is nothing but its signal. It consists of 0 and 1. It oscillates between 0 and 1. It is very important in case of sequential circuit to activate the sequential circuit. Now there are different types of signal clock triggering. That is triggering. Triggering means activating. So one is level triggering and another is edge triggering. Level triggering means, so this is the clock signal. Level means this is the high, this is the 1, and this is 0. This is positive level and this is negative level. When it operates, all the sequence clocks are activated in the high value. This is called positive. When it operates in the low signal, that is low, being low, this is low 0. And when it operates low value, low level, that is low level triggering. This is high positive level triggering, and this is negative level triggering. Now there is edge triggering. Edge triggering means when it moves to the 0 to 1, this is positive edge. When again it moves to 0 to 1, this is positive edge triggering. And when it this is negative edge triggering. When it this is 0 and 1, and when it moves downward 1 to 0, that is negative triggering. Again when it moves 1 to 0, this is known as negative triggering. So this is negative triggering and this is edge triggering, negative edge triggering. edge কেন বলা হচ্ছে, কারণ এটা এজ বরাবর অ্যাক্টিভেটেড হচ্ছে। এখানে দেখতে পাচ্ছি আমরা 0 থেকে 1 পজিটিভ এজে অ্যাক্টিভেটেড হচ্ছে, 1 থেকে 0 নেগেটিভ অ্যাক্টিভেটেড। লেভেল ট্রিগারিং লেভেলে কাজ হচ্ছে, হাই লেভেলে কাজ হচ্ছে, হাই লেভেল। নেগেটিভ লো লেভেলে কাজ হচ্ছে, লো লেভেলে, দ্যাট ইজ লেভেল ট্রিগারিং। সো ফ্লিপ ফ্লপ is based on this triggering concept. One is positive triggering and other is negative triggering. One is positive level triggering and negative level, and one is positive edge triggering and another is negative edge triggering. So in this video I am discuss sequence circuit, combination circuit, different types of sequential circuit, difference between combination sequence circuit. In the next video I will discuss flip flop and latch, difference between flip flop and latch, different types of flip flops, and with block diagram, circuit diagram, truth table, and so on. Thank you very much.